Ferrus Manus, Primarch of the Iron Hands, a character beloved by all, by the fan base and Games Workshop. A character that has a lot going for him. He's got iron hands, pretty cool, an absolutely unbreakable bond with his favorite brother Fulgrim, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here. An indomitable will, a pretty cool legion full of really fun augmented stuff and very heavy like weapon and armor use. A character built up of a vast amount of inner strength. A man who has a pretty good head on his shoulders. He got beheaded, so. But enough joking aside, for the 5 Iron Hand fans out there like that exist, I'm sorry. He is genuinely great. I like Ferrus Manus as a character a whole lot. It is just a shame that his absolute biggest contribution to the plot of Warhammer is dying. But again, like I said, in the small bits he's around, Ferrus Manus is actually really, really cool. So let's just get into that. Like every Primarch, he got blasted into space by the Chaos Gods, and he landed on a little planet known as Medusa. And when he landed on Medusa, it was a whole thing. He crashed right into the mountains and caused a giant like chain reaction where the mountains collapsed on top of him, and he was completely covered underground to where he would walk that off because Primarch. And these mountains in particular were in the northern pole of Medusa, which is a place known to have lots of spooky monsters and weird machine constructs, one of which he would fight. This metallic worm thing that was famous for being unkillable. And by the way, I do mean worm with a Y. It's that type. Which, they had a fucking really cool fight, because of course he saw this giant monster and he's like, I'm gonna kill that. To where he did, where the method he was only able to damage and then kill it was grabbing it and wrestling it into molten magma. To where in its death throes and it melting from the magma, the metal like bonded itself with his arms, like all the way up to the forearm, in like living metal. It's real weird. This living metal bonded itself and now permanently stuck with these iron hands. Now he is the way he is. And by the way, it is 100% necrodermis he has. That worm he fought is some Necron construct. Fun information for anyone who lived on Medusa, I guess. And specifically about those iron hands. This fact about himself was something he genuinely hated. He was not a fan of this. Now, they were useful, don't get me wrong, because having metallic arms is nice, especially for a man who is a master blacksmith, where he never used like a hammer or anything. He straight up punched things into shape. To where he was a master because he could fine tune all of that because they were his fucking hands. And there's a really fucking cool quote right here, layered with some dramatic irony, because this is what the Iron Hands are now. And Ferrus Manus is a man who doesn't believe in augmenting yourself to become strong. That's like anathema to him. Here's this quote. It is a really dope quote. I'm not gonna sit down and read it because I actually really don't like doing voiceover work for these videos. So pause and read it. And this whole theme is very important to Ferrus, the idea of inner strength and willpower and his hatred of weakness. Now, a lot of times this is kind of reduced down to just like his hatred of weakness. He must be strong. But he's not a dick about it. He's not Perturabo. Because what Ferrus values is striving for success and power, getting rid of the parts of yourself that are weak, working hard, striving to do better. That's his whole idea. If you fuck up and fail, but you actually tried, Ferrus, he's obviously not going to be like happy that you failed and you're probably in a Space Marine army, but he's not going to decimate you like some of the other Primarchs would. He's just going to be disappointed. That's the thing with Ferrus. In reading about his personality, he's just a dad. He's that strict dad that is not mad, disappointed. You need to work hard, never give up. The worst thing you can do is quit. All of those dad adages genuinely apply to him. But anyways, once he beat up this worm and eventually killed a few more things, he descended to Medusa itself and came out where people were already like, this dude's fucking dope. Look at those arms. That ain't normal. Let's call him Ferrus Manus, a name that translates to Iron Hands. I want you to understand, this is the one thing I don't like about him. Because, my man, pick one, okay? Your name is Iron Hand. Don't name your men the Iron Hands. And don't, by fucking God, name your flagship the Fist of Iron. You can't have 3, that's too much. I'm defending you to have like a personality. Stop defining yourself by your arms. But he would do like all Primarchs do. He would go out and conquer his planet, where he would rule and have the very basic rule of, listen to me or I'll beat your ass. Nothing else about it. But one thing he did that was really interesting, he didn't break any of the politics or squabbles of the nomadic tribes that lived on Medusa. He kept those intact because he believed, and this is true, that I'm quoting this from like the wiki and the books for this, he believed that their rivalries built character. Again, he's just a fucking dad. And this would also get him the title of the Gorgon, because, get it? They're on Medusa. Gorgon, it's the same thing. Anyways, eventually the Emperor would descend, and this is the thing we just don't have much info on. I dug around. There's one source that I could find that actually details their meeting, and even then it's not a lot, where I had to track down the old Index Astartes from the White Dwarf like magazine. It was published in 2002. I got a PDF of it, and all that details their meeting was the Emperor arrived and something happened. As the thing says, it's kind of like mythologized to where they say these two divine beings met in the mountains, clashed, breaking mountains in the landscape around them, just destroying everything. With their indomitable will and power, they settled the score and came out as equals, which, honestly, if I had to believe anything that fit Ferrus Manus' character without this just kind of tall tale that's been built around it, I could see them dueling, and or at least sparring. And on the other hand, I can see a debate. He joined really quickly, and with his experience with being very technologically advanced, a big thing he did right when he came from the mountains was teach the people on Medusa about technology and teach them how to build cooler shit. And he's also a really, really pronounced general. So him ascending to Primarch with his legion wasn't that big of a leap. But yeah, from here, Ferrus went out and undertook the Great Crusade. And he did important things, I promise. He has this thing where a lot of the things he did, some of it's off screen. There's some really cool interactions he has. If you want a really fun one, I don't know what book it's from, but I read a cool excerpt where Ferrus Manus meets Vulcan for the first time. It's actually really cool. Just look up Ferrus meets Vulcan on Google. You'll find it on Reddit. And yeah, I am just brushing this off a little bit. I'm kind of streamlining through this because I'll be honest, the things he was doing, it's interesting during like the Great Crusade and before the Horus Heresy. It's not that important, man. It doesn't build anything else. But Horus believed he was integral, which Horus made a point of saying when he was starting up the rebellion that Ferrus Manus' position is paramount. If he's on the loyalist side, they will lose. If he is on the traitor side, they will win, which is incredibly rude because Perch Rabo's standing right there. Though Fulgrim did promise that he would be able to get Ferrus Manus on the side of the heresy. He just had to convince him. Which he kept saying, dude, I'm the best at this. I got this. We're thick as thieves. We're best bros. I'll get him over. Which, touching on their friendship, they had a genuinely close bond. If you want a really good example of just their bond and then how it fell apart, go read the book Fulgrim. It's a fucking great read, and it's fantastic. It details a lot of this. They had a genuine brotherhood. Besides just some of the Primarchs that are actually friends, they felt like family. And the way they met is actually really fucking wholesome. I'll say it's rare for 40k. So here's how it happened. Ferrus Manus, he was working at the forge one day, this really cool underground forge. And here comes Fulgrim sauntering up like, I'm here to build the most perfect weapon anyone has ever seen. Peak Fulgrim. Where Ferrus laughed in his face. Because look at this guy. He's got soft hands. Man can't swing a hammer. To where in that moment they declared a contest. All right, you think you're such hot shit. I can punch swords into being with my bare hands. That's all I need. So let's build the best weapon ever. So they did, and they spent days working on it, slaving over the forge to where they both presented their weapons. Fulgrim presented Forge Breaker, a hammer that's so strong and so powerful that a regular Space Marine can't even lift it, and it can destroy a mountain in a single blow. And then Ferrus Manus built Fireblade, a blade that perpetually has the flames of the forge on it. A dope-ass flaming sword. They both presented their weapons to each other, looked at the others, and both, at the same time, said, "You are the victor." And in that moment, sharing that eye contact, no words were exchanged. They picked up their weapons and gave it to the other person. And from that moment, an unbreakable bond was made. They were best friends after that, and both wielded each other's weapons until Fulgrim picked up a funny little blade known as the Lair Blade, which may or may not have kept the Slaanesh Keeper's secrets inside of it. And this Keeper's secrets kept whispering things in his ear, telling him how Ferrus doing these like really cool altruistic acts were because he was jealous and trying to one-up you. He didn't believe in you. And through a lot of elements of that, their friendship started to break a little more, until it finally fractured when Fulgrim met up with his brother again and tried to hit him with the funny idea of betraying Dad. Ferrus wasn't fucking having it. He didn't let that slide at all, to where they had a little duel, and Fulgrim knocked Ferrus unconscious with Forgebreaker, and then took it. And they wouldn't meet again until Istvan V, or a funny little event known as the Drop Site Massacre, where they were fighting the Emperor's children and a lot of other legions. They all showed their true colors and were fighting the Loyalist forces, to where, in a moment where he should have pulled back, Ferrus locked eyes with Fulgrim across the battlefield. This shit was going down. They fought, to where they straight up dueled. They were kicking each other's ass. They were pretty equally matched. Especially because Fulgrim still wasn't really convinced he wanted to kill Ferrus, but this demon kept pulling at him, until eventually, with the Lair Blade, he decapitated Ferrus Manus. A death that would send ripples throughout the universe, because it's pretty fucking major that he died. Ferrus is the first Primarch casualty, and now he's left an entire legion with no Primarch. Pretty fucking big deal. And yeah, obviously, that's where his fucking story ends. Ferrus is dead, but his presence obviously is still there. His legion has that, like, culture of the Primarchs gone. As well, there's some funnier stuff. My favorite being, Fulgrim still believes that he could convince Ferrus Manus if he just knew the right words. So he hits up his best buddy, Fabius Bile, the Clone Lord, to clone Ferrus constantly, where he will create a, during the Great Crusade era version of him, so then Fulgrim can save scum and try to debate Ferrus to go traitor. And he has failed every single fucking time. I don't know the exact stat. I want to say 27. I don't have a source for that. If someone knows, please link it. To where obviously he blames it on it's just a wrong clone. It's faulty. Just Fabius sucks at his job. Nah, man. Just coping real hard. And then as well, there's a fun fan theory. There's zero sources on this. I was digging. There's not much. Where there's a cool thing in 40k called the Legion of the Damned, which are essentially Ghost Rider style Space Marines. They appear in moments where they're needed, out of fucking thin air, flaming ghosts shooting you with flaming ghost bolters. They fucking rule. And there's a theory that the one leading them is Ferrus Manus, who is dead and his soul is still kind of kicking about because his soul didn't get erased. He didn't turn into a demon, so he's just dead. When you die in 40k, your soul goes to the warp. So, would be fun, but there's no proof. So, if that gets proven someday, cool, man. That'll be a fun way to reintroduce Ferrus to the story, I guess. Give him some new stuff, because he needs more writing. The ones we have are really fucking nice, and it's a shame. However, to look at this optimistically, this does mean he didn't live long enough for Games Workshop to ruin his character. That is the most charitable view I can give all this. But anyways, that's going to wrap this up. If you like this, like, comment, subscribe, do that stuff. Join my membership, and see ya.